Because I've done that before, where you try and sit and someone else stands.
Yeah, and you just feel
kind of
awkward. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do.
Yes.
Yep. I'm seeing IndyCar timing. Negative.
Okay.
We're looking at every timing monitor in here, and we. Gotcha.
Okay.
Is that going to hurt us? Is that going to be like a sweeper being flipped, or is that? That's not going to. Okay, that will be okay.
Okay.
Correct.
Copy.
Okay. And then where do we bail? Oh.
Okay.
I've been shut down before.
Question: Kara, when you talk back to us, it sounds like it kills my mic. I don't know if it does or not, but.
What did it?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Can you hear?
I hear you.
Oh, you can.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
It may cut it to you, but I heard you count all the way through.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't be worried about it. Yeah, that's no problem. So it's a 50-minute race. So it needs to start in the next.
Yeah, in the next like minutes. 3 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing still. Actually, there's a far left screen that turned, but that's not the screen we have in front of us. There's one off to the side that changed. So it's that one and that one.
Is it in the multi there too? It's in the upper left of that one, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we have it in the multi monitor, but is that it? And then I've got it way over here.
Yeah, we have it in the Russ and
but
the multi.
I can't see it. But I don't have it in the SMT, the sole SMT monitor, and cars are rolling. I just need to make sure I have program somewhere.
Still nothing on program or SMT. Is there something we can do up here to manually change?
There. So yeah, we've just got on our program monitor is a stationary shot of the museum. The cars just went through it, but the camera looks locked down. I mean, that's our timing.
Yeah. Good thing we can see a good portion of the track. Oh.
There we go. Okay, SMT's timing is up. Oh, good. Welcome to one of the most exciting single make series in the world, Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and it is round one of the 2019 season from Barber Motorsports Park. Brian Till along with Anders Krohn. Anders, green flag.
Oh man, and look at this, 3 wide into turn one, huge move down the inside, beautiful move.
The car that everybody wants to drive on the street. You see it on the curbs in those neighborhoods. You see it in the driveways. It's the Lamborghini Huracan. This is the Lamborghini Huracan Evo, 600 plus horsepower, Pirelli racing slicks all around, massive downforce. What a car to drive.
Yeah, and another, oh look at that move down the inside, and that's into turn 5, so deep on the brakes there. I think that's Oki, and squeezing Mitchell out off the track.
See that white number 29 out in front right now. Richard Antonucci behind the wheel and pushing Amici in the one, the blue from Prestige Lamborghini off to the side. Prestige Wayne Taylor Racing, I should say. Lambo Paramus.
Wow, what an aggressive opening lap here. And everyone, all the drivers told me before the start of the race, look, there's going to be no overtaking in this place, so we have to be aggressive. And, well, that is exactly what we're seeing here. What a crazy opening lap.
Well, Change Racing, the team won the first 2 races of the 2018 season, round 11 at the World Finals. Swept the team driver and dealer standings in 2018, so you know they put a good car under their drivers. But, man, really, really aggressive driving from the get-go by Richard Antonucci.
Yeah, now yet another move here, and look at this. This is turn 15, 16, trying to hang it around the outside.
See the number 11, the blue and white in there. Done. Now, 4 different classes right now in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series. There's a Pro-Am, Am, and LB Cup. Most of the Am class, there's all single drivers. They'll do this race on their own. Pro and Pro-Am, 2 drivers in those cars. All will have to make a stop somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes into this 50 minutes race. Even the single driver cars will have to make a stop, and they'll all have pretty much close to the same minimum pit stop time, and they measure that from the pit in line to pit out.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be fascinating seeing once we get up to that 20 or 30 minute mark who rolls the dice, who decides to come in early, who wants to make that driver change early on in the race, and who wants to stretch that as far as they can. And to your point, yeah, the single drivers, they have to be in pit lane for a total of 83 seconds. The teams electing to switch a driver, they only have to stay in for about 80 seconds, and that is to give the second driver a little bit of a help, a little bit of a leg up, because they have unknown circumstances that they're getting out on track.
Richard Antonucci in his 29, that's a pro-class car. Brandon Godovic just behind in the 46 from Prestige Performance Wayne Taylor Racing Lambo Paramus. Actually, I'm sorry, it's from Precision Performance Motorsports Lamborghini Palm Beach. And Godovic, a very experienced in these cars, sharing that car with Connor Daly, the IndyCar driver this weekend. And Connor Daly really having to come to terms with anti-lock brakes and traction control.
Yeah, exactly. And he mentioned to me earlier today just how aggressively you can drive these cars with anti-lock brakes. That basically means you can just jam on the brake as hard as you physically can all the way down to the apex. And the same when it comes to the throttle. The rear isn't going to step away from you, and you have a lot of adjustability with that inside the car.
Looking right now at the battle with the 94. Under some extreme pressure. In the 94, Brett Meredith right now from Lamborghini Broward, P1 Motorsports.
And I'm wondering if Meredith needs to tighten up the lines just a little bit, because in turn 5 left himself a little bit too exposed there, and under severe attack here from the Prestige at Lamborghini. Look at this.
Well, remember, that's Andrea Amici, who had qualified well and got shuffled back there at the start when Antonucci ran him off at the exit of turn 6. So right now we know that the number 1, very, very quick car, he's got to work back from that deficit that Antonucci dealt him there in turn 6.
Yeah, it was aggressive driving on, and again kind of comes back to what all the drivers talked about before the race, and that you have to be aggressive on the opening lap to get positions here. Barber Motorsports Park, a very, very technical track, as we're going to get a replay here of what happened on that opening lap with Richard Antonucci. And you see it's a late dive down to the inside, and then just kind of opens up his hands and drives the one car straight off the track. Look at that. That's a bit naughty.
Well, yeah, that is a bit naughty, and you wonder what the officials are going to say about that, because I kind of read that the same way that you did. You've got a lot more driving experience than I do, but that looked like turning right in the left-hand corner to me.
It did indeed. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the race director decides. And the other thing I noticed there, as they had contact for Amici, that's going to actually hurt him a lot, is that it bent up his left mirror. So he's now going to have less visibility backwards than he would otherwise.
I thought what's behind you didn't concern you.
Oh, but it does. Yeah, it greatly does. As yeah, look at Richard Antonucci. I mean, he is just he's running away from Godovic.
I was going to say, right now, what's behind Richard Antonucci does not concern him, because there's nobody back there extending his lead. It was 2.9 seconds at the line over Brendan Godovic last time through. Liddy in the 34, running third right now from US Racetronics and Lamborghini Beverly Hills, and that's a Pro-Am car.
Yeah, and this is cool here, as we're only a few minutes into this race and already so much has happened. And I think, to your point, that's what's so exciting here about the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, is all these different breakdowns of categories. You have the straight-up pros, the drivers that earn their money by being on the racetrack. Then you have the Pro-Am category, which is a professional race car driver paired with an amateur, someone that is still trying to climb their way up to the ladder to eventually become a pro. And I think those are really, really cool. And then obviously you have the all amateur lineups as well. The drivers, some of them are younger, trying to climb the ladder. Some of them are older gentleman drivers, just trying to compete with the younger guns. But it's a great opportunity here for all these drivers to compete against each other.
Talk about competing against each other. Teammates right here. You see the number 1. We talked about that earlier, Andrea Amici, who got shuffled off the racetrack, trying to get past his teammate Cameron Castles. And Castles, they run out of the same stable, the Prestige Performance Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini Paramus, but Castles is running in a different class. He's in the AM category, a very accomplished gentleman driver. Won at Sebring in the LMP2 category recently, won the LMP3 Masters Championship in the IMSA series last year. So very accomplished and drives a lot of different cars and seems very well suited to this Lamborghini.
And I think that helps him a ton, just that diversity of cars, driving prototypes, driving GT cars and all that. And just the fact that his teammate Amici just overtook him here is actually going to help him a lot, because now he can see what lines is Amici taking. How can I follow suit? Where do I need to brake? Where do I need to turn into the corners? So I think this is a great learning opportunity here for Cameron Castles.
I think the other thing that it gives you is a very clear picture of the difference between a professional driver and a gentleman driver. Amici has gotten by cars out of the same stable. You've got to assume that they're set up pretty similarly, and yet you see what a paid race car driver does.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, he's flying. He's about to catch another car here. Is that the 33 car he's about to come up to? And yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see him line him up here and do a lunge down into turn 5. Let's see how deep he is on the brakes. Oh, he is. Look at that. How deep is that on the brakes? Great stuff.
So past McKay Snow, and if you think you recognize the name Snow because you're a sports car fan, certainly do. Younger brother of Madison Snow, who is an IMSA champion in the GTD category, also ran here in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series. And McKay realizes, hey, he's in a different class. I've got my own battles going right now, and for McKay Snow, he's leading the AM category. He doesn't want to fight, I would assume, with Amici as he comes by.
Yeah, he doesn't want to slow himself down or put his car off track or anything. But again, I think there's a lot he can do here to learn to try and follow Amici and just see exactly what he's doing line-wise out there on the track. But I think it's in these opening stages of the races where you really see the pros shine through. It's on those cold tires, Pirelli tires. They're about as wide as a barn door, these tires are. And so to get the proper heat into them can be a very intimidating thing if you you are a younger driver or an amateur, just to really challenge that and be aggressive enough to develop that tire temperature. And that's obviously somewhere where Amici has a lot of experience in just getting that peak grip so early in the race.
Lamborghini Super Trofeo at Barber Motorsport Park. Richard Antonucci has disappeared from the lead on timing and scoring. I'm not sure where he is on the racetrack.
He's been given a drive-through penalty. I just saw him drive through pit lane, and I was wondering what is going on there with Richard Antonucci. There we have the answer. So he is going to be driving red mist now for the remainder of his stint. Boy, what a blow to his chances in this race.
And you would think that drive-through penalty, Anders, came from lap 1?
Oh, most certainly. I mean, they were side by side, and a little bit of door banging is okay. But when you just open up your hands and kind of gently squeeze someone off the track, that is not okay. So glad to see the race director took action there. That's certainly a good thing.
Brandon Godovic now leads then. Patrick Liddy in second. Jacob Idsen in third. The first of the Pro-Am cars running third. Now this racetrack is absolutely beautiful. Not far from the Atlanta area where they run the Masters at Augusta National. And it's the same kind of feel here. The rolling hills, the shortcut grass, everything well manicured. Just a beautiful facility. 80 feet of elevation change. What does that elevation change do? You're seeing it here in turn 1, the compression, the uphill, and then back down and then up again. It's almost like a ski mountain.
Well, I was going to say, it's the one thing, the sensation in the car, which is incredible. I first came here in 2011 in Indy Lights, and I was blown away by, in these compressions, just how much G-force. This is the most amount of G-force these cars are going to see on any natural terrain road course. And so that's the one thing. But I think the more tricky thing about this track is almost every single corner has a blind approach to the apex. So you essentially can't see the corner as you're turning into it. The same is coming through here. This is turn 8. As you turn into that, you have no visual point of reference, and the same exact thing goes for turn 12. So there's a lot of confidence required in you as a driver. And speaking of the elevation change, I did the 5K run here yesterday, and let me tell you, these hills are a lot more steep when you run them than when you're in the car.
So you don't think it's 80 feet?
It feels like 800 feet.
The elevation change from turn 2 up to turn 3 is massive, and as you said, these drivers, the compression on it, the best I could explain to people at home is find the best steel roller coaster that you can and get in it for 50 minutes as you watch the battle for second place really beginning to heat up. Idsen in that 09, the silver, black, and copper colored Lamborghini just behind. That is the Pro-Am leader. And what is he thinking about the 34 in front? He knows that Liddy's in a different class. How hard does he press?
Well, I think he's going to press as hard as he can, because Jake Idsen is one of those drivers. He's racing for his career. He wants to be a professional driver, so he's going to be pushing for every position he possibly can to prove that he is worthy of being a pro, and has a lot of GT3 experience as he's lining up here for a move down the inside into turn 5, deep on the brakes, and yeah, no protection whatsoever for Liddy down the inside, so that's a fairly easy pass there for Jake. But Jake's first time racing in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and I spoke to him a bit earlier, and he was just blown away by how fast this thing is in the straights. Some 620, 630 horsepower. I mean, these things are flying, and he said just to get used to that power was pretty incredible and a difficult challenge initially.
I spoke with Connor Daly earlier, and we talked about Connor's IndyCar career. Obviously, somebody used a high downforce car, and I asked him about the aerodynamics on this Lamborghini Huracan Evo, and he just said, the aero is so good, it's so important, and it's something that drivers have to kind of come to grips with. I think he found it a little bit odd when he stepped into this car with a closed cockpit. Probably didn't expect that much out of it, but you could tell just in his tone of voice, it's a very impressive machine.
And it's the same thing for every open-wheel driver. You kind of expect to get into a GT car and expect it to wallow around, but this is anything but, as we're seeing the leaders here come up to lap traffic, and that's Godovic first, then Jake Idsen, and that's a nice move there for the driver being lapped there to let everyone go so easily. And that is the number 43 LV Cup leader that they just overtook, so nicely done there to stay out of the way.
And this is the thing, we talk about sports car racing, and if you're a fan of the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in IMSA, you recognize the different class of cars. Here, there are 4 different class of drivers, but they're all driving the same car, so that acceleration off the corner, that braking capability is the same whether it's a Pro car or an LB Cup car, and that's got to make it more challenging, I would think.
It does, and actually, well, just a couple of years ago, there was the upgrade kit, the Evo now, the Huracan Evo, which has a little bit additional downforce, a little bit more horsepower as well. So this thing has been hyped up even more than it was just a few years ago. So even more braking capability, and actually that was one of the things that Jake Gateson said was the most impressive thing about this thing. It stops just so quickly here.
Good battles all around this racetrack as you watch the number 1 of Amici now up to 4th, driving with abandon, but on the pit stops, no tire change, no fuel. What kind of car is he going to hand over to his teammate if he continues at this pace?
One with very worn Pirelli tires, I tell you that much, because he is pushing like there's no tomorrow. And you notice Barber Motorsports Park, every single corner is a long duration corner, so that the sustained force on these tires is just incredible. So very easy to burn them off here if you push it too hard. So yeah, Amici got to be a little bit careful here.
So when you look at the side, like turn 2 with that banking on it, long duration, as you just said, if you get in there and press it too hard for too long, is it just like taking a file across the side of the tire?
It's essentially like a cheese grater, and the only salvation in all of this is that the advanced traction control system there is in these cars, it limits the amount of wheel spin that you're able to get, but still, just the G-force on these tires, yeah, it wears them out for sure.
Lamborghini Super Trofeo, billed as the most exciting single make series in the world, and you can see why, especially at a world-class facility like Barber Motorsport Park. Brandon Gudovic out in front and also leading in the pro category. Jake Eidson, what a great job running second in Pro-Am, and as you said, hungry to make his mark and be known as a pro-level driver.
Oh, and as they're coming up to lap traffic, I believe that's Hubble that they're overtaking in the 69 car. So, oh, and that could have very easily been contact there for Brandon Gudovic as he was trying to keep Jake Eidson at bay while getting past the lap traffic. So, hairy stuff there in the final couple of corners.
Well, and that's what we were just talking about, the challenge. Everybody driving the same car, but obviously the experience levels vastly different. William Hubble in that gold and black 69 ran about 4 races last year and sharing his car with a very experienced driver. And if you're a sports car fan, you recognize the name of Eric Curran, champion in the WeatherTech Sports Car Series in his Whelen Cadillac DPI. He shares that 69 with William Hubble. So you'll see a vast performance difference after the pit stop when Eric Curran climbs behind the wheel.
But I think that's why this is such a good learning ground for the Rolex 24 and for the Sebring 12-hour, because it almost comes across like multi-class racing. You still have to deal with lap traffic. You still have to deal with all those same elements. So I firmly do feel like this is a perfect training ground for the IMSA WeatherTech Championship.
I always say when you watch races like the Rolex 24 or the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, if you're in one of the GT classes, it's as much about passing your competitors as learning how to be passed by the faster cars, and I would think that that's what some of these LB Cup and AMP drivers are having to learn as well.
Yeah, exactly, and these drivers are going to have coaches and spotters out on various points of the track letting them know when quicker traffic is coming up to catch them, because so much of that is having the ability to just focus forward and on your own line, on your own braking points and everything, and letting someone else kind of take care of the spotting for you. So they'll have someone watching out for them, but at the end of the day, yeah, the spatial awareness that you have is absolutely crucial. As look at Jake Eidson now. He is just carrying so much speed through the entry to these corners. And then look at how nicely he squares off that exit from turn 3. I think he might have a shot here into turn 5.
A lot of pressure on Brandon Gudovic, nothing doing this time, and he takes a look. The ABS seems to really help with that late dive down into turn 6, but it's not going to happen now. But look at this battle a little bit further back. Bright green, number 94, really under pressure from the 43. Meredith in front of Harrison.
What a great battle here, and as we have the leaders, still that battle raging on. And what I like here from the driving style of Jake Eidson, if you notice, he squares off the corners a little bit more, doesn't use all the room on exit, and what that's doing is it's saving a little bit of tire life for him, because he's not asking as much. As I say that, he runs off the track going through that quick chicane in 10-11.
Making a liar out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
And this battle continues to rage up front. And now it's funny, I think the other thing that you see is in a single make series, if you make one little bobble, you lose a lot.
Oh, you for
because
sure.
the cars seem to be so equal.
Well, and you lose momentum, and don't forget there's all these other series out on track this weekend, so the amount of marbles that collect offline is just tremendous. So if you miss your line by 3 to 6 feet, you're going to lose 3, 4, maybe even 5/10 of a second. And pit window about to open about a minute away, so it'll be interesting to see if we have any takers right as the window opens or if they elect to stay out for a bit longer.
What is the strategy in a Pro versus Pro-Am as far as the pit window goes?
Well, I think realistically you want to probably, if you have your quickest Pro in the car right now, you want to try and maximize that time, whereas for someone who started with their Am, yeah, they want to pit as soon as that window opens to get their Pro into the car to maximize their drive time during the course of the race.
So Brandon Godovic will hand over to Connor Daly. Jacob Eatson will hand over to Damon Oakey. And we'll watch that battle continue as long as they both make good pit stops.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's really, I think that's the good thing about the pit stops as well. You're not bringing cost into it by having refueling rigs and having multiple crew members and air guns over the wall to affect the pit stop. It's simply a driver change.
Yeah, exactly. And I also like the format here with these double race weekends that one driver has to qualify for the one race and start the one race, and the other driver will qualify for the second race and then start the second race. So it's a very fair set of regulations as we're now, the pit window should be open here. So it'll be interesting to see. I bet Brandon Godovic's probably going to come in fairly early, whereas I would expect Jake Edson is going to stay out a little bit longer once he gets clean air and gets to the lead.
Battle for the overall lead continues through turn 1. Brandon Godovic leading the 0-9. Eatson just behind him, and really the pressure on now. Pit window is open. The car is beginning to come to the lane.
Yeah, and let's see. That was snow that took to pit lane, and Jake Edson just raging on, deep on the brakes and making Godovic run wide.
You don't want to give up that position ever, but you certainly don't want to give it up on the last lap before your pit stop. You know you've got a good driver to hand the car over to, and if you can maintain that track position and the pit stops go well, your teammate should come out just like this.
And the only other thing they got to think about is if these guys battle too hard, the drivers behind are going to be able to catch up to them. So they want to try and, if there is going to be some sort of overtake, to make sure that they don't spend several corners side by side, because ultimately that's going to lose them time as we have several takers now to pit lane.
And you talk about closing in. Patrick Liddy just behind in third, behind this battle, isn't that far out of the hunt. You saw him right there in the picture. Leader now to pit road.
Yeah, Brandon Godovic coming into pit road. Going to hand over to Connor Daly for his first official stint in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. That'll be exciting for Connor.
So what's going through Brandon Godovic's mind right now? Is he on the radio? Has he been telling Connor about the car, getting him ready to get in it, or has he just been quiet and said, here it is, bud?
Oh, I would have thought in the closing couple of laps, I mean, he would have just been holding his breath because he was so closely followed by Jake Edson, so he probably wouldn't have been able to breathe, but just hoping for them for a clean pit stop here. And again, a reminder on the regulations, so it's an 80-second pit stop limit from pit in to pit out for the drivers changing out. However, for the drivers staying in for the AMs, they have an 83-second pit stop mandatory.
You also saw the number 1 Prestige Performance Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini Paramus entry just in front of the number 46. Sandy Mitchell will be climbing in the number 1. Cars out, that black and gold 69, Eric Curran behind the wheel.
And Eric Curran, of course, coming to have to come to grips with a car that he is not very familiar with. He's obviously done a tremendous job in the DPI category over the last couple of years, winning the championship last year. But this car, a whole different beast. I mean, ABS, all this, all this traction control, very, very difficult stuff.
Well, and it seems to be counterintuitive the way you drive it. I have not driven one, but in talking to both Connor Daly and Eric Curran, they said you rely on the traction control. The car begins to slide off the corner and you start to steer into the slide a little bit, and then you just mat it.
Yeah.
Because, and it's like, well, if you did that without traction control, the rear tires would spin and you would spin. And he said, but the way the traction control works, it really seems to gather up the car for you and kind of pull it straight. And in fact, if you correct with your hands too much, you've done too much.
Yeah, exactly.
So You just said it's absolutely counterintuitive, and the same with the anti-lock brakes. Have you raced a car with anti-lock brakes?
I've driven a race car. I've never raced one with anti-lock brakes, but it is just the strangest sensation of just slamming onto the brakes and essentially holding the brake pressure as hard as you possibly can all the way down to the apex. And the electronics are so sophisticated that they can optimize the brake zone better than what you can with a feel in your pedal.
Down through the 8-9 complex, and that is a massive blind drop, hard to see from the cameras outside, but you cannot see that left or right hand apex when you come into that corner. And that's one of the things that's so exciting about this racetrack, as well as the competition right here. The three, Solari, just in front of
look
the
at this
43.
high-low here. What a beautiful move. Harrison just squaring up the corner, trying to get the run in the black and red car.
Randy Solari there in the number 3 from Dream Racing Lamborghini North Los Angeles. Another car out there looks just like it, the 7. That's the team car of Sheena Monk, and it's great to see Sheena back in the series. She too is with Dream Racing Lamborghini Palmyra out of New Jersey. Good to see her back in the series. She did a great job last year, had an incident at Laguna Seca that ended her season a little bit early. She's recovered from that, back here for round 1 of the 2019 season.
Yeah, and it's just great to see the progression that she's had. And I mean, she's only done 4 full race weekends in her entire career, and here she is out driving these absolute beasts. And it's just crazy to see how quickly she's been progressing, and especially around a place like this that is so challenging with all these flowing corners. And again, as you talked about earlier, the fact that the visibility is so small or so little in these cars, especially as low as you sit.
For the AM drivers that are going it alone, 50 minutes around this racetrack. Yeah, you get a little respite, that 80 seconds there in the middle of it, as you see the 33 now in.
So that's Cameron Castles, and so he is the AM driver staying in the car here.
So he's got 50 minutes in this car. How brutal is that around this racetrack? It's enclosed, there's no air.
Oh, exactly, and it's super, super difficult. And I even think this is probably the most difficult place right here, when you just have to sit and the pulse is still racing. There is no airflow coming into the car whatsoever, so you're just sitting there and the pulse is still going, and you're just waiting. So it's very easy to make a mistake on your first lap back out, because you were in a very nice rhythm. Everything was flowing, and suddenly that's come to a halt. So now it's just a matter of kind of resetting and then getting after it again.
Crew with the door open, trying to get him some air. He's retightening his shoulder belts, it looks like. A little drink of water, pushes that back out. But, I mean, think about this. You said it, over 600 horsepower. The Pirelli tires on these Lamborghini Huracan Evos, the front tire on the Evo race car is the size of the rear tire on the street car. So it just kind of gives you some idea of the amount of mechanical grip that one of these cars generates, and then you throw in the aerodynamics on top of it. It's very physical.
Yeah, it is so, massively so, and especially because there's not really any long straightaways here. You're constantly doing something inside the car, constant G-load on the body. You're always doing some sort of brake or throttle modulation around here, so not an easy place. And yeah, this is the season opener, and for many of these drivers, first time ever racing a Lamborghini.
And if it is your first time in a Lamborghini, what a place to come. Barber Motorsport Park, the brainchild, the vision of Mr. Barber, George Barber, Alabama businessman, very successful in business and successful with this racetrack that opened in 2003. LB Cup leader pitting. That's the 43.
And that should be Ashton Harrison out of the car and Simo into the car there. Yeah, there she is, jumping out of the car. That was a great stint for her, and yeah, that is a great job.
Stephanie Simo, very experienced as well in other forms of speed events on racetracks, but as far as wheel-to-wheel racing, she has limited experience in that as well.
And that's a whole, and actually it's probably a good thing that she's doing the second stint here, so that it's a little bit less wheel-to-wheel, because, yeah, those opening laps were intense. It's the overall leader, Jake Edson, is in the pit lane.
Talk about intense. Some good battles out on the racetrack, and it's going to be interesting to see when all those top 3 or 4 cars get back out there after the pit stop, how everything kind of closes back down. Right now, several of the cars have not made their stop yet. We're waiting to see them get back on track, and then it'll all come back together. It'll be the run to the checkered flag.
Yeah, and Antonucci in pit lane, so he's going to relinquish his second place, at least for a little bit.
Just over 21 minutes left to go from Barber Motorsport Park, the opening round of Lamborghini Super Trofeo USA. And it has been intense so far, intense from the 6th corner on the first lap, I should say.
Well, it was 3 wide into turn 1, mind you.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
true.
was
So it's
pretty hairy stuff here. And oh, by the way, they're racing $350,000 Lamborghinis.
Yeah, well, you know. So yeah, when you watch that rubbing, it's exciting. But I'll tell you what's exciting about the series, though, when you talk about the cost of the cars, is immediately on it, out of pit lane, you saw the 09 just jump in the throttle Damon Oki on the way off the corner. And the series has done such a great job of finding ways to bring people in. You don't have to buy the car. There are teams that have the car that you can rent, and the dealer involvement these days seems to be even better. There is an opportunity for dealers to be involved and provide the cars, and that really lowers the entry cost to a lot of the competitors. And you think about Lamborghini's involvement in the sport in general, they've got their Corso Pilato driving program out in Las Vegas, and in fact, Andy Cantu in the 13, Randy Solara in the number 3 in LB Cup, Sheena Monk in the AM category. They've all gone through that program, and it's developed them. What Lamborghini wanted to build was a ladder system, and they really have.
Yeah, and I think it's an awesome program. The fact that this Corsa Piloto is a 3-day course, an intensive course with everything from on-track driving to theoretical training to data review. Basically, everything that you're going to encounter as a professional driver, they run you through and give you the opportunity to understand if this is something that could be for you. And you can actually go from that into the Super Trofeo, then into the GT3 program and compete in races like the Rolex 24.
Well, we were just talking about Stephanie Simo and a problem on that pit stop, it seems, because they had to come back in, serve a drive-through penalty. She just left and has re-entered the racetrack, but it's going to be frustrating for some of the drivers around her because she came right out in the middle of a battle. Has the right to do it, to say the least, but that's Oki in the 09. This is the fight for the lead. Connor Daly, his first laps of competition in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Well, Anders is going crazy in the booth.
Well, Connor Daly's not afraid to hang it out there, is he? Did you see how deep he was into the brakes there? And I think he's just got to be a little bit careful here. Don't overdrive your tires on the opening couple laps here. You clearly have the pace on Oki. So now it's just a matter of bide your time, set him up, get the run through turn 3, and then get the job done on the brakes into turn 5, because that got a little bit hairy, I think.
Well, but he's got to keep his eye on the mirror as well, because that white Lamborghini just behind from Change Racing, Lamborghini Charlotte. Remember that team. Richard Antonucci, so aggressive in the beginning. Corey Lewis now behind the wheel. Lewis is the defending champion in the pro class. He knows how to wheel one of these Lamborghinis. That is first, second, and third. Look at Corey Lewis.
Oh, and Connor Daly hanging around the outside, so that was a good job to defend there. But now the pressure is truly on, because Corey Lewis is an absolute expert in these types of cars. Driving part-time, obviously, in all the long races in the IMSA WeatherTech Championship in a Lamborghini. So the amount of laps Corey has in this type of car is staggering. So Connor here needs to get a good run, but Corey Lewis with a clear advantage early on in the stint.
He knows these cars so well. 2015 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Pro Driver Champion did it again last year, and look at him really putting the pressure on Daly, and it's gone from Daly really putting pressure on Oki in front to now having to defend.
Yeah, and this is they should probably actually work a bit together. And Corey Lewis, you do not want to make an overtake into turn 8. That is not where you make a late lunge down to the inside. So Corey Lewis, though, trying to stress Connor Daly out for all he's worth.
The fans on the hill here getting a great show. These supercars, as I said earlier, it's the car everybody wants to drive, the Lamborghini Huracan. And you look at it in its Evo form, they've updated the aerodynamics, as you said, last year, and really kind of changed the dynamic of the car. It seems to have made it more pleasing for a lot of the drivers. Pleasing for Corey Lewis right now in the white 29 all over Connor Daly. Can he make that work?
Oh, and Connor Daly shut the door there, and then Connor Daly goes down the inside in the final corner. Oh, man, and Corey Lewis is now going to be super aggressive to make sure he gets by Oki as well here, and then he's going to set his sights on Connor Daly yet again, because Connor look at this. He's stretching it a little bit.
And what happened to Oki in that complex of corners? Did he get a little wide in the next to the last corner, that penultimate corner that allowed them to get through? I thought the battle was going to be between Lewis and Daly. And in fact, Oki went from the lead to third.
Yeah, it was a strange thing coming off the penultimate corner there. Oki had a clear sort of advantage over the two, and I'm not sure if maybe he realized, hey, I'm in a different category than these other two. You know, do I just let them go as hard as they're fighting, or do I just kind of drop back and take care of my car?
World-class exhibition of driving here at Barber Motorsport Park. Take a look at this. This was the change in the lead. Happened just now. Oki, did he have a problem? He stayed so far to the right.
I almost feel like Oki was trying to set up for the final corner, but in doing so, he sacrificed quite a bit of speed in the penultimate corner.
He sacrificed
Connor Daly was desperate because he was like, man, I got to get by Oki, otherwise Corey Lewis is going to get to me, and you know what? It worked out because right now Connor Daly's stretching a bit of an advantage here over Corey Lewis, half a second now.
I'm wondering if Oki has a problem, though. He's dropping back more and more and more. He's fallen into the hands of Mitchell there in the number one. Sandy Mitchell now ready to pounce.
This is another one of those where Sandy Mitchell's just got to bide its time here, just square it up coming out of turn 3. And yeah, look at this, Oki running way too wide in the middle of turn 3. This is going to be an easy overtake here for Mitchell.
What do we think about tires, Anders? Perhaps has Oki burned off the Pirellis?
I don't know if you can burn them off that quickly, though, because it's not like that car was overdriven by Jake Idson in the previous stint. But yeah, to your point, I mean, dropping back like a rock.
Something seems amiss in the 09, and now Sandy Mitchell, his first race in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Series, first race with Wayne Taylor Racing, Lamborghini Paramus, and doing an absolute job. Has never driven on any of the American tracks. He did test here, but he has not raced on them.
But, you know, he's doing a fabulous job, and of course that number 1 on the side of this car has a huge significance, and that is because that is the previous champion car. So a lot of heritage with this particular car, and Wayne Taylor Racing with Prestige Performance, very, very well-known team, and they've won a bunch of races in Super Trofeo, so they would have been able to coach Sandy to get up to speed. And look at this, evaluating a move into turn 15, but thinks better. That was probably a smart decision, but well, look at this. Oki's got to be looking at this and saying, I'm doing something wrong in turn 15.
But that's not what we saw earlier. He had pace everywhere, and it just seems like something is not quite right. And now Sandy Mitchell, once by, is beginning to stretch away immediately.
Yeah, and it's strange because usually if the tires were falling off, you would kind of see the car of Oki start to slip and slide around and move all over the track. But oh, look at this, Corey Lewis now, massive attack here on Connor Daly as they have a back marker that they're overtaking around the outside into turn 5, and Connor Daly, though, able to stretch away for the time being.
That was Randy Solara in the number 3 Dream Racing Lamborghini North Los Angeles entry. And one of the things that Connor Daly said when I talked to him, he was quite frustrated, not used to different levels of driving experience, and go back to the one make. They've got the performance off the corner and in the braking zone. A lot of time it seems like it's just the speed in the middle of the corner, Anders. And so Connor Daly not going to take a lot of time to get by. He didn't really have a lot of time to say, I'm sorry that you're new to this. I'm not. I'm going through.
And you could even see he had a little bit of rear lock up there, so he would have been just going down through the gears, being as deep on the brakes as he possibly could. But Corey Lewis at the moment looking like he's got the pace. I wonder if he sat back for a few laps there, maybe just saved his tires and is now going for another attack, because he's clearly quicker.
Well, I was going to ask you, with the tires, we talk about the long duration corners and the stress that it puts on them. If you calm down just a little bit and settle down, maybe not attack the entry of the corners quite as much, will the tires come back to you a bit?
They absolutely can, and I think that's what you're seeing here with Corey Lewis. He's driving a slightly narrower line than Connor Daly, so he's got a little bit more of a shallow arc through the corners. And I wonder if that, and we had a double spin here.
The 88 and the 43. Not sure if they were running together on track or not.
Tell you, and that's a scary place to go off the track. That's turn 12, turn 13. Almost certainly would have been some contact there
Stephanie
between
Simo
these two.
And Jeffrey Chang. Chang in the 88. Simo, we talked about the penalty that they got on the last pit stop. See if we can see what happens here. Chang and LB Cup in the 88.
Oh, so Chang, Stephanie Simo just turning in way too late, and Chang essentially having to turn in. Did not anticipate that whatsoever, and tell you what, it's such a high-speed part of the track. That's incredible that the two of them didn't sustain more damage.
And Chang is back underway. I don't know if his car is damaged or not. Stephanie Simo sits stranded in the 43. Looked like it was a massively late entry, and does that just invite the other driver in?
Oh, it 100% does, because part of you is wondering, is this person letting me go? And the other part of you is like, well, there's a huge gap there. I've got to go for it. So, but turn 12, not typically a place where you see overtakes here at Barber Motorsports Park.
As I said,
Chang. Look at this battle now, though. Connor Daly again with a back marker, having to go around the outside, and Corey Lewis is right there like a shark.
Tell you what, I'll give credit, though, to the 08 of Mel Johnson, who just said, I don't want any part of this, kept the car to the right. And look at the twitch by Connor Daly under braking.
Boy, Connor here, I think overdriving the entries just a smidge, and that brake zone for turn 5 is difficult. You're coming over a crest, the car gets extremely light there, easy to lock up both fronts and rears.
We talk about the grip of the Lamborghini Huracan Evo on the Pirelli tires. 10 minutes to go.
Oh.
Is Connor Daly going to have any Pirelli tires left underneath him after the drive we've seen him put in? Right now, Corey Lewis in the white 29, two-time champion, not letting Daly get away.
And again, I keep coming back to the line difference here that I'm seeing off these longer duration corners. Corey Lewis just driving a slightly smarter line, something that'll conserve the tires a bit more, just a little bit narrower coming off the corners. Doesn't put as much strain into the tires, and that's definitely going to help him here in the closing stages.
Connor Daly leads over Corey Lewis. Sandy Mitchell in third in the number 1 that you see back in the shot, the black and blue. And still hanging is the 09 of Oki. He's well in the distance there, just coming onto the front straightaway. I look at it now, though, Daly, Lewis, Mitchell, all in the pro category, Oki in the pro-am category. Did he just say, I don't want any part of this? I'm winning my class?
I think that's exactly what happened. I think Oki's just perfectly happy to win the category because, yeah.
Who would want to be in the middle of this?
Exactly. And Corey Lewis is just stressing Connor Daly, and I'm wondering if Connor Daly has his engineers or driver coaches in his ear telling him to square off his corners a bit more, because Corey just getting the power down way more efficiently.
And when we talk about experience with anti-lock brakes and traction control, Corey Lewis obviously has it. How much adjusting is going on as the grip changes in this car, as the tires wear down in the race? How much changes are being made with the traction control and the ABS?
Well, I think in the case of Connor Daly, just looking at the wiggle he had there, the first thing he's probably going to do is wind a little bit of brake bias to the front, because he started locking the rears there, not just in turn 5, but in turn 8 as well on an occasion. So that's probably the number 1 thing. And then the question is, do you go a bit more aggressive on the traction control as Corey Lewis continues to put the pressure on?
Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America from Barber Motorsports Park, round 1 of the 2019 season. Connor Daly leads in the pro category. Damon Oki in the pro-am category, then McKay Snow in am, and Mel Johnson in LB Cup. And there have been battles all around this racetrack. Truly one of the most challenging tracks these drivers will go to all year long. And once again, you look at Connor Daly's black and red number 46, that little dance into the braking zone.
Yeah, so he's just got to wind up that brake zone a little bit, maybe move his brake marker back a few feet to make sure that he doesn't overshoot the apex, because the moment when you miss the apex there, you're out into the marbles and you start losing a lot of grip there. So that's probably the one really vulnerable spot where he can protect himself by moving his brake point back slightly.
Sandy Mitchell, I believe, is beginning to close in on this lead pair. There he is in the back of the shot, the black and blue number 1. And he's closer than he's been.
Yeah, he really is, and that battle there between Daly and Lewis has obviously helped that a lot. And interesting line there through turn 12, 13 for Mitchell, but clearly catching up here. 3.5 seconds now. He was over 4 seconds just a couple laps ago.
I see what you mean about squaring off corners. Connor Daly seemed to be tighter in that one. And just behind Corey Lewis, kind of a broader entry, maybe more gentle, less taxing on the tires?
Yeah, I think so, especially on power, because again, over 600 horsepower here that you're trying to plant, and even though you have traction control, oh, did you see that entry there for Sandy Mitchell into turn 1, almost onto the grass? Would have been so easy to lose the rear end there.
Mitchell closing down, but I'll tell you what, Corey Lewis has dropped back off of Connor Daly's rear wing just a bit.
See, part of me is wondering if he's doing the same thing he did a few minutes ago, just dropping back a little bit to get the tires to cool down a smidge and then go for another attack here with 2 or 3 minutes to go, because wasn't able to do anything as they were fighting it out. So maybe he's just changed the strategy ever so slightly.
There's a look at Damon Oki in the 09. Great run early, and he was in the thick of that battle, and maybe we answered our own question. Remember, Jacob Eaton did a great job in the 09 in the beginning, but perhaps they just realized, hey, we've got a good race going. We'll take first place points in Pro-Am. We don't need to battle with those guys up front.
Yeah, I think so, and it was a great opening stint for Jake Eaton as well. His first time in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo car, so wonderful job for him.
McKay Snow there in the 63, black and orange. As we said earlier, you recognize the name, and I'm sure he's gotten plenty of tips on driving this Change Racing Lamborghini Charlotte entry from his brother Madison, who spent a lot of time in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, winning a championship in his Lamborghini Huracan with Brian Sellers, his co-driver. And Madison also spending time here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America.
And it's been a great learning experience here. And there we have the LB Cup class leader Johnson here. Another clean run for him here in the GMG Racing Lamborghini.
And hats off to Mel Johnson, because he did a great job earlier with the leaders coming through. And the LB Cup is for drivers who are rookies, in a sense, that are just learning. They really don't have the rankings yet, but they've done a good enough job to be out there and have been deemed competent enough to be out there and race with the pro level classes. And that's exactly what you want to see by one of these drivers. Very heads up by Mel Johnson today, and he leads that class.
And essentially you can go into the Piloto Corsa program, do those 3 days, and then step right into the LB Cup. So it's a very steep learning curve, but again, that's why they have these driver aids, the traction control, the ABS brake system, just to make that learning curve a little bit more achievable.
And back to the overall lead. Corey Lewis in that white 29 has dropped back a little bit for Connor Daly. And we said Connor Daly was not particularly pleased with traffic that he had to deal with in practice and qualifying. He's having to deal with it right now.
Well, he's getting one done there in the final corner, so that'll be good. And then the next one should be able to get done coming off of turn 3, if not going into it, at least by the time he gets to turn 5. And Corey Lewis, luckily for Connor Daly, is being held up a little bit.
2 or 3 more laps to go. 3 minutes, 31 seconds left in round 1 of the 2019 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American opening round.
And surprised here to see Corey Lewis fall back as far as he has. I mean, yeah, clearly if he was just saving his tires, he would have gone for another attack again by this point, but not the case.
And as we watched earlier, as you pointed out, the aggressive nature of Connor Daly we thought might take a lot of wear and tear, take a toll on the Pirelli tires. We've not seen that now. It looks like Corey Lewis has dropped back a little bit. Is he just resting to mount an attack with just under 3 minutes to go?
I don't know. I mean, 8 tenths back. It was 1.2 a lap or so ago, but whoever's, look at this, Sandy Mitchell now, 2.6 seconds. So that could be the dark horse in this entire race.
Sandy Mitchell may not be done yet. He's certainly bringing the fight back to Corey Lewis, and Lewis looked like a little bobble there.
Little bit here, and it'd be interesting to see once they get up to the line here. So 8 tenths on the previous lap. It's got to be closer here this time by, as Sandy Mitchell gets ever closer.
If indeed Lewis was saving something to the end, it's go time, and it looks to me like Connor Daly beginning to extend that lead. 0.84 seconds at the line the last time by, and 1.7 this time. Corey Lewis falling back into the clutches of Sandy Mitchell.
Yeah, and Sandy Mitchell is super aggressive, chucking it sideways in the exit to the corners, not afraid of wearing out the tires at this point in the race, and catching very, very quickly.
2 very different mindsets right now 3, I should say. Connor Daly beginning to having some breathing room. What is going through Corey Lewis's mind as he sees Sandy Mitchell behind him? And you know that Mitchell's got to be hungry as a lion, thinking, I got this, we're running out of time,
well,
but
I think Corey Lewis has got to be frustrated here because he felt like he had the upper hand on Connor Daly and was much quicker at one stage here in this stint, and just couldn't convert that into an overtake, which is kind of surprising as quick as he was. But hats off to Connor Daly, though. That's an amazing effort for his first ever Super Trofeo race to be able to, in the closing stages here, outpace an experienced driver like Corey Lewis, who's had so much track time in this car.
Drop a wheel. It should be the white flag this time by, but for Connor Daly, he's got more traffic in front that he's going to have to work through. If Corey Lewis has any hope at all, it could come right here as Daly looking around the outside of the number 13, trying to slide by there, gets that done. And pretty much a free run onto the front straightaway as the white flag waves.
How about that for Connor Daly? 2 more back markers to get past, and then he can take his first win in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Around the outside into turn 2.
It's just one more lap, but
it's
not over.
He's got to continue to be aggressive because otherwise Corey Lewis is going to be right there.
And Lewis is about to have his rearview mirrors full of Sandy Mitchell, that blue and black number 1, but he's had to fight through traffic, gets a clear shot through turn 6. I don't know, though. Lewis has gained some ground back on Connor Daly.
He has, but I think it's too little too late here. Connor Daly with only the back half of 1 lap to go and not really any specific overtaking spots here. So Connor's just got to keep it clean here. Going to come through that super quick chicane here in turn 10, 11, then set up for 12. And yeah, I don't think Corey Lewis is going to be able to do anything. And nor is Sandy Mitchell going to be able to do anything with Corey Lewis.
Brandon Godovic back with the same team this year. Connor Daly's teammate back with Precision Performance Motorsports and Lamborghini Palm Beach. This is going to be huge. Brand new pairing. He and Connor Daly together. Daly out of the IndyCar Series and into a closed-top car for the first time in his career. One more corner onto the front straightaway for Connor Daly. Victory right now and celebrations on the part of the 46 Precision Performance Motorsports Lamborghini Palm Beach. Connor Daly, Brandon Godovic are going to celebrate. And what a way to start the 2019 season. You come to a place like Barber Motorsport Park and you take the victory. And what a way to start the year. Damon Oakey wins in the Pro-Am category. McKay Snow in Am, and excitement towards the checkered flag. This is how intense this series is. One of the most competitive single make series, and you see why. Thanks for joining us from Barber Motorsport Park. Round 2 happens in just 24 hours.